Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The manhunt for Europe's most wanted terrorist continues tonight. German authorities confirmed earlier that fingerprints of the Muslim suspect at large were found inside the truck used to kill 12 people in Berlin on Monday. Dozens were injured. We also learned today 2 of the injured were Americans. The suspect is a 24-year-old refugee from Tunisia. The attack overseas has renewed concerns about immigration here at home. President-elect Donald Trump says it proves the need to restrict some Muslim immigrants from coming to America. A man who interrogated the mastermind of 9/11 agrees. Dr. James Mitchell was assigned to question Khalid Sheikh Mohammed more than a decade ago. He says KSM warned back then about the very kind of attacks we're seeing today. Mohammed also predicted Islamists would try to take over the world through immigration.
This is exactly the sort of thing that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had predicted. He and I were talking about what he saw as upcoming trends in terror attacks, that the easiest way to win the long battle to take over the world with Sharia law was actually through immigration and by outbreeding non-Muslims. He said that like-minded jihadi brothers would immigrate to Western democracies and to the United States. Then, when the time was right, they would rise up and attack.
So, Greg, KSM warned it years ago. ISIS promised it fewer years ago. It's happening.
Yeah, and you say in the opening, it has people talking. It has us talking. What bothers me is it really doesn't have enough people talking about this. If the world were a jewelry store, America is the Hope Diamond, and you don't have just a velvet rope around it in a glass box. You have to think seriously about how you keep that thing secure. Our problem with America is everything's now team sport politics. You got to be either pro-security or pro-tolerance, when actually they complement each other. If you want to have the world's most diverse country in the history of the world, it has to be safe. Why are people running from terrible places around the planet? Because this place is safe. It's less dangerous. There's less rape and assault and murder. So they come here. In order to continue that relationship with the people coming here, we have to make sure it is safe. So the pro-security, pro-tolerance together.
But you don't want to change the nature of the country by saying that we are going to somehow build a wall around the entire United States. Not that we
I would build a dome.
We are already blessed.
I would build a dome.
No, I would not. I think we are blessed by the 2 oceans on either side.
We are.
But even more, I think we are blessed by the idea that we see ourselves as a refuge for people who are fleeing the kind of violence.
You're doing the team sport thing again.
No, I'm not.
I said pro-tolerance, pro-security.
I really am.
But you went to the pro-tolerance part. I'm saying you can have both.
No,
I did this.
But the way that you bring them together requires that there be rigid kind of security that eliminates a certain class of people.
Should there be none? What? Should the borders be completely open? I mean, there are people who say we should. But your point, if you're saying, well, we shouldn't restrict this group. Should we restrict any group? Should we just have no border?
Of course not.
Well,
look, we have limits on immigration.
Who makes that decision?
I'm sorry?
Where do you draw the line and who makes that decision?
I think we as an American people make that decision. That's why we have limits on immigration, but we treat all people, we don't even treat all people the same. I will say that up front. Our immigration laws initially clearly favored people coming from Western Europe. Only since 1965 have we opened the doors to the rest of the world. But we vet all people. We make sure that they are not coming here to threaten us.
Don't tell that to people from Eastern Europe and China who came over to build the railroads and eventually the highways. It wasn't just 1965. I mean, we definitely have a sketchy past as to who we've invited into this country. But here's who we shouldn't let into this country. We shouldn't let people in who want to kill us and people who hate freedom.
And Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber hates freedom more than any Canadian who's ever lived. All right, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed also had a great dissertation on the poisonous toxicity of Justin Bieber.
Yes.
But to be completely honest, people who want to impose Sharia law violently absolutely abhor freedom. They are bad people. Is there a guaranteed way of vetting people and looking into their hearts? No. No more than a way we have of changing their hearts and minds.
So,
Therefore, you got to figure out a better process of keeping bad people out instead of keeping everyone out, because that gives you a false sense of security.
Until you figure out that better process, Kennedy, maybe it is okay to keep a group coming from this area where there's a lot of terror happening.
If that's what you want to do, but there's terror happening in Western Europe, like Belgium and the UK. Do you keep those people from coming in as well?
I think you pick the terror. Well, listen, I think the president is going to do what he wants to do. But Dana, let's bring you in. Pick the terror hotspots and say, until we find a better vetting system, maybe we hold off. Do you like or dislike that idea?
I guess it's not foolproof. I mean, it could help a little bit. I mean, if you're constantly narrowing down the chances, I think that's helpful. The point about that Mitchell, I think, was making that is very interesting is about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was saying that this is not something that they think is going to be done by the end of 2017. This is a lifelong generational war, and we are talking as if, okay, well, if we do this, then we're going to be done, and then we can move on, and everybody can have a great Christmas holiday, and everything will be fine. This is just something that will last for our lifetime. And so Generation X, millennials, the baby boomers, all working together, generationally together, as you were saying.
Yes.
And the other thing is that even Khalid Sheikh Mohammed could not have imagined the parade of horribles that would exist after the Syrian refugee crisis. Because what he was talking about in terms of using immigration to try to spread the terrorism throughout the world, it was basically because we didn't act to protect the situation as it was, we put accelerant on the fire, and now Europe has a gigantic problem. Like the United States, a little bit more protected because of our policies, because of the oceans, but Europe is basically... Well, I was going to use a word that I won't use.
Oh, go use it.
No.
Oh, no.
Come on.
No,
We have a bleep button. We have a bleep button.
Don't get thrown in
it's
work
not
jail.
a bad word. It's a mean word, and I don't want to say
Oh,
it.
in that case,
We'll try and nudge you to maybe
I'll say
it.
in a commercial
But
break.
Can I be a little provocative with this? Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, we have this information. Call it information, call it what you want, opinion, but we have it because we didn't drone him.
Yeah, no, we didn't take him down to the a peaceful meadow and have cheese and crackers. Right. There was water involved, but it wasn't in a meadow. It was in a small room, and it was very quiet. It's a new world. The battlefield is Earth, and we got to remember the key word for ISIS.
Oh my God, that was a horrible movie.
It was John Travolta. But the key word for ISIS right now is technology. The next step is going to be remote-controlled cars and bombs and drones and mines. And there's a leaked memo from ISIS. They have leaked memos that Jen and Musa had tweeted from Arabic Al-Anon TV that there's 19 new machines that they've created to unleash some kind of modern terror, and they're almost all remote controlled, and they tie in with technology, and these are the things that we're going to have to deal with.
Okay, but here's my point about this is there's always going to be a workaround. We can find systems, we can have vetting processes, and we should have those. You can't just let everyone in, and I don't think any rational person, and even libertarians would say that. However, there's always going to be a way, because now they realize it's too expensive to put forth a plan like they had on 9/11. So they're relying on people who are mentally unstable and morally bankrupt to do horrible things and create so much panic and so much fear. So what is the next thing they're going to do?
But there's a common denominator between all these people who are going to perpetrate this terror. They're here. And they weren't likely born here, right? The issue is, are they coming to the country, and how are they getting here? And if we have A, open borders, and B, no vetting or minimal vetting, there are 110,000 refugees who are going to be settled in the United States this year alone. 110,000. Does anyone know that number? Because we had heard like 10,000 or 15. 110,000. I mean, that's a massive number.
If you're about 20,000 more than we usually get.
If you're 99.9% effective, you have somewhere around 110 terrorists that want to kill us.
But hold on, Eric. You suggest somehow that we are a bunch of idiots, that we don't already vet people. And I think you're insulting us as an American people when you suggest that we don't already take measures. And not only is it our measures, I must say international bodies get involved.
I never say we don't vet.
Of course we vet. So therefore, we're not letting everybody in.
It's just unfair to say we don't vet.
I thought you said we just let anybody in. We do not do that.
I said through the border. If the border's wide open and we let
the
people
borders
in.
are not open.
All right.
Well, the other thing is that we know that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was a liar as well. So that was one of the reasons brave people like James Mitchell were asked to do really difficult things and interrogations. And we ask our intel community to do really tough things. So he's there. They know that he lies. So then basically they trap him, and that's by giving him information. That's when Khalid Sheikh Mohammed realizes that we have captured other al-Qaeda leaders. So then he starts to talk. So what he did was use psychological terror to plant seeds for us. Now, I don't know all the things that he said were true or not true. We don't know. But one of the things we risk is that the psychological terror continues to push us in a direction that we risk not protecting innocent Muslims who would help us in this war on terror. And that's where the balance is going to have to come. It's a much more complex problem than just banning or not banning or vetting or not vetting. It's just really complex.
Okay, but you raise a really good point, and that is if you have people who are coming into this country, or they're going to Belgium or Germany or Switzerland or Turkey, and they're doing horrible things, there has to be an uprising within the Muslim community that squashes this, because people in this country, who tend to have traditional American values, aren't going to change the hearts and minds. But if you have Muslims in other countries who don't want to be categorized as bad people, who are kept from traveling to the Western world, then they're the ones who have to work within their communities to change minds, and also to stand up and say, we're not all like this. And you don't hear that, but they would be much more effective at what ultimately has to happen, which is keeping people from being drawn to this murderous lifestyle.
That's why it's about targeting the radicalization.
Yes.
And it's a long-term, very complex, generational war that we have to be prepared to put resources into, to recruit some of the best American minds, and to work with our allies overseas, because we are going to rely on them. Just like in the Vietnam War, we worked with the Vietnamese in order to help us protect ourselves and our national interests, and then there was an influx of immigration, and that was a good thing for our country. I'm not saying that's exactly going to happen here, but we know that we need their help, so we have to figure out a way to do both.
And I think we need this on several levels, both in terms of people in the Muslim community and in terms of Muslim states in the global war. But I just wanted to make a quick mention. So I went to some Broadway plays this week, so I've been walking around the neighborhood, if you will. And you see that the New York City police have out now people with automatic weapons, the bulletproof vest and like, added security, added counterterrorism on the ground. And I've read where this is true now in Chicago, L.A., Houston, Washington, D.C. during the Christmas season, in particular protecting against the possibility of that kind of, drive-by or
that's not just
for 15 years.
How outrageous, though, that they would use guns. My goodness, Juan. I thought yesterday you were telling me that guns were responsible for more horrible things than terror.
Wait a second.
And now you're going, thank God we have we have law enforcement out there with guns.
But of course I like law enforcement.
Yes. Okay, good. All right.
I have no problem with that, but I'm saying,
what about when law enforcement isn't there? What about a responsible citizen who is armed who can protect fellow citizens?
Like the one here, just in Times Square.
Absolutely right.
Or what about what you've all just pointed out? Where are the moderate Muslims? Where are the moderate Muslims?
We've had this argument.
This segment, we do it every day.
No, I know, but why isn't it? We have more terror. We have more death. We have more destruction. We have more Nices and Berlins and Brussels airports and Turkey, and it keeps happening, and you just don't hear it. You just don't hear that group saying, we vehemently push against this. We're not part of this.
I don't think, I understand. First of all, I agree with you that you need to hear more of this voice. Where I disagree with you is I think there are lots of people who are cooperating with American law enforcement in the Muslim community, in mosques, to try to combat this. And where I heard it was, sort of a sad cry this week was from refugees in Germany who said, suddenly we are being blamed, cataloged with this bad guy who perpetrated this horror, and we are just so grateful to be in Germany.
There's a longer term question about this. Let's say, we kill every single person who's involved in ISIS. Just kill them all, and then there's some other new thing that happens. What about the reality of assimilation in a culture like this? Do you accept those whose values undermine the balance of freedom and security, who see Islamism as an ideology that is greater than our republic? Because that's a first for us. That is a first. We have assimilated all sorts of cultures, but none that says we are a superior ideological framework that we wish to.
On a religious level or a legal level?
On both. It's both.
Yeah, what he's talking about, they're intertwined, and that's when it becomes so problematic. But you also look at young men, and it's it happens to be people who are kind of bored and they don't have a lot to do, and maybe they've got an anti-authority streak, and those are the most fertile ones that crazy imams reach out to and change and radicalize.
That was a very interesting block there. Coming up, the liberal media falls for yet another Islamophobic hoax. This one was drummed up by a known prankster. Greg has the details on that one next.
was big news. A Muslim man kicked off a Delta flight for speaking Arabic on the phone to his mother, freaking out Islamophobic passengers and the evil, evil airline. This outraged celebrities. Even actress Olivia Wilde vowed to boycott Delta. Yes, the great Olivia Wilde. And CNN's Brian Stelter, who rails against fake news all the time, retweeted the victim's video, which fanned the flames. But hold on, you heroic warriors of social justice. Stop indulging your assumptions for just one moment, and you'll find that this so-called victim is a renowned hoaxer who fakes events on planes. On his YouTube channel are videos of him with titles like Arabs on a Plane, Speaking Arabic on a Plane, and Counting Down in Arabic on a Plane. I sense a trend here. Recently, he staged a fake video with a New York City cop harassing men in Muslim dress. It was fake. He even faked a story about boarding a plane in a suitcase. Fake. And there's the time he claimed the Boston bombers were framed. He's also a 9/11 truther. And still celebs in the media buy his shtick. This ghoul says that even though he's cried wolf many times before, this time it's real and he's consulting a lawyer. So should Delta. Sue this divisive, alienating a-hole. We must finally declare war on hoaxers because once again, without evidence, so many swallow an attention-seeking drama, happily smearing a company and the innocent people that it employs. So who's worse, the hoaxer or his frothing enablers in the media? Hard to say, but in the meantime, until further notice, let's make all of them walk. All right, Delta released a statement saying, based on the information collected to date, it appears the customers who were removed, these jerks, sought to disrupt the cabin with provocative behavior, including shouting. This type of conduct is not welcome on any Delta flight. And then they go on to say that it became clear that these guys are pranksters, blah, 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 blah. Okay. He's claiming it's sincere. But if he's been doing these pranks in the past, hasn't he lost the right for anyone to believe his shenanigans?
I think so, yes. But the thing is that what you might find on the left, though, so like people like Olivia Wilde who jumped on it initially, you know that whole thing, like if there's a hate crime turns out to be a hoax,
it doesn't
matter.
But
then the left says, well, it's still a valuable lesson because hate crimes do exist.
Yes.
So I think that you'll probably find it here. Like, well, do you think Muslims aren't discriminated against on airplanes?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the kind of response you'll get.
Eric, aren't the victims here Delta and their employees and the passengers?
Victims are everyone because it's the PC culture that enables this, as you ably point out. But the enablers in the media also enablers in the White House. Remember Clockboy?
Yeah.
I mean, if I would say
Ahmed.
What, Ahmed? Yeah, poor Ahmed. Yeah. Okay. Well, also a hoaxer. I mean, you make a clock this big in a suitcase that looks like a ticking time bomb. President Obama invites him to the White House, and we find out later that there's a whole lot of stuff going on in his past. It feels like the same thing to me. Fake news is a real problem, but I got to tell you, it's really, really difficult to figure out what's real and what's fake. And now that they're going to video, it used to be a story. You couldn't figure, is this real or not? Let me see the source. It looks like a real, and then you find out it's not. But now videos, you know, what's real, what's not. But by the way, Delta did say they have passengers who claim he was talking really, really loud.
It was staged, and he was looking at people and saying Delta, and he had it all set up, and then he tweeted his website. By the way, Clockboy literally did create 15 minutes of fame for himself.
And he could count it down with his own briefcase. Isn't that wonderful?
Exactly.
See, I think someone like this actually wants to be harmed. I think he's masochistic because if you get on a plane, post 9/11, and we've all learned this, and we all have very low tolerance for people's shenanigans on planes. And who has the lowest tolerance? We learned this week. Pop star Richard Marx.
Yes.
He single-handedly, on a Korean Air flight, subdued a man who was assaulting female flight attendants. And the flight attendants were standing there with tasers, ready to tase the man. The only reason they didn't is because they weren't properly trained on the devices. They couldn't figure out how to use them. So they had to, luckily, Richard Marx was right there waiting for them. And he, over a 4-hour period.
First time that term has ever been uttered. Luckily, Richard Marx was there. Sorry, Richard.
As in, don't tase me, bro.
Yes.
But wait, I want to come out of this.
You could be seriously injured screwing around on a plane like that.
No, it's crazy. And let me just say, this guy, I read, also was revealed to be a jerk and an antagonistic force. On a flight, he said that he jumped into a suitcase
right.
to fly from Melbourne to Sydney.
Yes.
And the Australians said, never happened. Again,
Yep.
a hoax. So I don't see how he can reach out to anybody.
Yeah.
Even if you have a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know because I got in big trouble for saying that when I see people dressed in Muslim garb on an airplane, I get nervous. But I got to tell you something. There's a reality, I'm sure, that some people like me get nervous. Okay. But when this guy does this kind of stuff, it undermines any legitimacy to the complaint. And so he damages people who think that they are coming together and standing for their rights and liberties as Americans. I think you undermine the cause. I think you're hurting your own side.
I don't think he cares. I think he's in it for himself. You know, he likes to be known as a successful YouTube prankster, which is a long way of saying loser.
Hold on. No. YouTube pranksters, YouTube stars are wildly paid well.
Do you know how
upwards of $2 million a year for the best ones?
Tons of money for this stuff.
No, all these on my book tour. So you probably saw the same. So either right before me or right after me, the stores were preparing for the big YouTube star that was coming. And there was this one from Australia, and I said, well, what does he do? They're like, oh, he just talks.
Yeah.
And then he did a book, and he's got a whole deal, and it's all because of YouTube.
I meant him specifically being the loser.
Oh, yeah, he's a loser.
Yeah, he's the
so
loser.
what this is?
Does he get money for this?
He's the latest.
Gets ads. Well, he would get ads, right?
He's the latest balloon
they
boy.
make a ton of
Balloon boy.
Remember
Balloon boy, clock boy.
Yeah.
Another
Exactly.
inflated story.
By the way, why do you say Clock Boy was a fraud? I don't think it was a fraud.
He was
come
purposely
on.
trying to look like
I don't
he
know
was
that was
building
proven.
a bomb.
I'm
and
in
he
for
was
it.
He was setting up an environment as a victim. That's
You don't think that this was a kid who had a science experiment?
No.
Oh,
You remember
it was definitely an
his background,
experiment.
his family, you remember that?
No, I know what
Immorality.
you might say, but I also think it was a legitimate
The
experiment.
father claimed to be the president-elect of Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, believe me, we got a lot of crazy people, but I don't know that it's what you. I mean, I don't know that it was a hoax.
By the way,
like
there were
this.
other hoaxes that were exposed. There was a church down south, whoever had scrawled KKK on the church, and it was linked to Trump. Turns out it was actually a black member of the church. So these, and then there was
The cake, the racial.
But these are
There
just
was the young woman who claimed that a man forced her to take off her hijab, said that he pulled out a lighter, said he was going to light her on fire.
University of Michigan. That just came out. CARE was the one who jumped on that. Turns out totally made up. They can't find anything. So
nothing's true.
So I guess what I'm saying, in this day and age, shouldn't Brian Stelter hold off the retweeting just for a bit? Just look it up.
I think so. I think Twitter is a...
CNN has Google. They have computers. If you have a computer, you can go to Google. It's really simple, and you can just type in somebody's name and just press search.
But what benefit does he get, or does any one of us get by being first? To report those stories. Like, I always think, like,
it only matters when I'm
minute.
drinking.
Did Stelter retweet or did he add commentary?
He said, he goes, wow, this is really catching on. So that was his way of.
Big if true.
Yeah.
Isn't he-
I'm not saying it's real.
I'm sorry, but isn't he hosting the show
Reliable sources.
that exposes media calamities like this? I mean, isn't that what he's supposed? Isn't
He's
he
lectured
the
all of
person
us.
at the front lines of the vetting police? I'm sorry, but the one good thing about this is it ushers in a new age of skepticism. Because if you think that everything is
I
fake,
like
you're
that.
going to do more work trying to find what is absolutely real and what you can trust.
Yeah, I don't know, though. I'm pretty
You're already
lazy.
skeptical.
I'm pretty lazy. I'm skeptical of that. Everything you just said, I really don't believe. All right, directly ahead. The president-elect cements another deal before taking office. This one to save taxpayers millions by lowering the cost of the new Air Force One. Details ahead.
Earlier this month, President-elect Trump threatened to cancel Boeing's deal to build a new Air Force One over the hefty price tag, estimated at $4 billion. But after meeting with Mr. Trump yesterday, Boeing CEO said he would build the jets for well under that price tag.
I was able to give the president-elect my personal commitment on behalf of the Boeing company. This is a business that's important to us. We work on Air Force One because it's important to our country. And we're going to make sure that he gets the best capability and that it's done affordably.
Here's what the president-elect had to say following that sit-down meeting.
Your conversation with Boeing seemed to produce some positive results.
I think so. We had the chairman of Boeing, CEO, and I think we're looking to cut a tremendous amount of money off the press.
Well, this is so interesting to me because we talk about this $1 billion price tag, but apparently there is no deal. It's like there was 170 million, not billions. And then there's the question of what's on the jet. But the way it's being presented is that President-elect Trump is getting a better deal. Is this actually what's going on, or is this politics at play? Kennedy?
Well, I think at this point, it's okay for the president-elect to take a look at these deals when they relate to the office of the presidency. You know, it's vastly different than the carrier deal, which, you know, you could argue was more of a campaign tactic. But here, if we're spending $4 billion on Air Force Ones, I think he has every right to sit the person down and say, hey, man, what am I getting for this, before he even has a chance to kick the tires.
And in fact, you got Lockheed Martin working on Marine One, the helicopter. So you have these folks have defense contracts, and Boeing has immense competition coming from Airbus in Europe. The question is everything going to be piece by piece for Donald Trump, Greg?
I don't know. I think maybe he has time to do this. By the way, he has more time than most people because he never sleeps. And so, it's something that he likes to do. But you're right. I mean, if there's a litter problem in our nation's parks, you know, our president shouldn't be fly to every park to pick up the litter. You've got to reform the system. You have to create laws, regulations, and penalties so the parks are clean. So in that sense, maybe he should focus on reforming the system so he doesn't have to go and twist arms every time.
Maybe you should privatize the parks.
Privatize the parks. Exactly right, Kennedy.
So let's talk to someone who's flown around on Air Force One, Marine One. Now, as I understand it, the big provisions in the cost, according to Boeing, has to do with, like, shields that would protect Air Force One in the case of a nuclear blast.
Well, here's the thing. The best thing for all of us to do is to not talk about the capabilities of the plane.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things about it, is that it has to be beyond any of our wildest imaginations.
That's a Keurig.
The protection.
That's a Keurig.
With K-Cups and everything?
Yeah, with the K-Cups. I love the K-Cups.
I do think in this situation, you might be able to say that everybody wins. So going forward, taxpayers win if the cop comes in under cost. The president, whoever it might be in the future, because these planes will be ready for a while, will win because they'll be protected and they'll have the latest technology. And Boeing wins in terms of being able to keep a contract. That Air Force One, they don't make a profit on it. But I do think that this idea of how do you restructure defense acquisition? So how do you make sure that we are doing contracts that make sense? And one of the things that General Mattis could do if he becomes Secretary of Defense is to task his deputy with saying, I will not accept any cost overruns. And now it's on you to make sure that doesn't happen.
You know, Eric, I love that point, because this may be a message to the defense industry, big in Washington.
Any contractor.
Right, because the defense industry, typically everybody says, if you're patriotic, give the military what they want. But here's Donald Trump saying, hey, wait a second.
Well, they're still going to get what they want. They're still getting Air Force One and Two. Here's the deal, though. The deal is that we have a $170 million deal with Boeing currently, but for the Air Force One and Two, the estimate was going to be $4 billion. So Boeing says $4 billion, and the normal way to do business in D.C. is, okay, $4 billion, here you go.
Yeah.
Donald Trump says, hold on a second. No, this can come in lower. This can come in under budget and on time. And Boeing, they have a big meeting. The CEO comes out and says, we're going to come in under budget and on time. And now Donald Trump says, you know what, Boeing just did it. Every one of you defense contractors, every other contractor who sells stuff. Of course.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's
it's not picking up every piece of trash. It's saying, hey, see how we cleaned up this park right here? Every park needs to look like this park.
And by the way, stop building systems and weapons that the military doesn't need. And it happens all the time.
Look, you're going to get us in trouble, Kennedy. You're not going to keep doing this.
Give the military what they need, not what congressional districts want as favors.
I'm just telling you, that's the way. Eric is saying that's the way the system works. Some congressman says, it's my district, you got to keep it.
Yeah, so let's build some tanks.
All right.
Tanks for the memories.
Oh, boy.
Tanks for nothing.
Exactly right.
Frank Sinatra here. Ahead on the 5, breaking Trump transition news. President-elect's given his former campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, a key role in his administration. And a lot of other big announcements today from Trump. Stay tuned.
If you haven't caught Tucker Carlson's new show yet at 7 p.m. Eastern, I advise you to record it nightly. Last night, Tucker engaged in a fiery discussion, as usual, with a guest, this time about affirmative action. The debate was over a lawsuit filed that alleges Harvard University sets a higher bar for Asians than other students to limit their enrollment. The guest, Jay Chen, an Asian Harvard grad, himself argued his alma mater isn't engaging in discrimination. He supports the school's affirmative action policy, and Tucker took him on.
If you're against racism and racial discrimination, why are you explicitly supporting a system that penalizes people for the color of their skin, which you are?
The students who apply are not being penalized because of their race. The application process is entirely holistic. Actually, affirmative action benefits Asian American students. It recognizes that the Asian American experience is not all the same.
Okay, but that's all gobbledygook. When it comes right down to it, Harvard has a quota system for Asians.
They don't have a quota system.
Is it racial discrimination to not let somebody into college based on his race?
They are not admitting students based solely on race. There are other factors that are involved. And, you know, I've talked about a lot of others that have benefited people, such as legacy, such as whether or not you went to a private school, if you're from the Northeast. And there are a lot of advantages.
Those are non sequiturs. I mean, you're diverting from the question. If racial discrimination is wrong, and I believe it is, then it's just wrong.
That was your favorite part, Eric.
Yeah,
you brought up the non sequiturs.
You're a Harvard grad. You know what a non sequitur is. So I listened to that, and I was listening to it on the radio, and I was trying to figure out who is this person that would come on and try and defend this. Look, the bottom line is Tucker's right. I mean, it is a discrimination, whether you like it or not. And this gentleman couched it in, there are other factors. Legacy, meaning if you have a family member that attended Harvard, you bump up. But the reality, the raw numbers are, if you're Asian American and you apply at Harvard, you need a higher entrance, whether it's SAT or ACT, to be actually to get in. So
I wanted to do this story back in October when the lawsuit was filed, but obviously the election was too.
I think if Caucasian needs even higher than Asian, if I'm not mistaken. No.
So Juan, I think that the students have a legitimate complaint, but I was curious what you think.
Well, I mean, to me, you know, I like Tucker's attack because I think it's a direct line. It says if you believe that racial discrimination is wrong, then don't buy into this game. Now, the counter argument, and this is why you wanted to do the story earlier, because this is a really important argument. I mean, even this week in the newspapers has been stories about how the big colleges, especially the Ivy Leagues, are giving more preference to international students because they want to be able to claim that they are preparing the global leaders of the future. So they
also want full out-of-state tuition.
And you get that, right. But when it comes to race, because there is a history of discrimination specific against blacks and Hispanics in the country, then people say, well, if you don't have that history, should you be entitled to any preference? And then you come to Asians, and the discrimination against Asians may not be the same. You know, it becomes too much of a game. And at this point, I'm not even sure that it's achieving the goals when you look at the numbers in higher education in America. So I would say, you know what we need to do is focus on the entirety, and I think this is becoming more the case because now there's a disinclination to focus solely on standardized testing, is to look at the whole of the person. And that then becomes a whole different ball of wax. But that's going to change the way people look at getting into the best schools in America.
What is the libertarian point of view on this?
That you should have the best people.
Meritocracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what is merit?
Especially in this day and age, it's grades, it's extracurricular activities.
Yeah, that's the whole person. But some people see merit as, did you get, is it 1,600 these days or whatever?
Something impossible.
24.
Yeah.
They bumped it up to 24.
Yeah. So if you're a good test taker, and that happens to be the metric that schools use to allow people entrance, then the good test takers are going to get in. But at least that's some valid criteria that you can compete against, because there are ways of improving your score. There are ways of changing your grades. There are ways of adding more academic and extracurricular activities to your resume. You can't change your race. Therefore, it's unfair if a certain number of people who have these immutable qualities are kept out of school.
So what do you say?
Wait, Juan, can we get Greg in here because we're going to run out of time? Because Greg, I was curious about your take on the specific issue, but yesterday on FoxNews.com you posted a column about Tucker's show that kind of talked about interviews like that.
Yeah, he's terrible. It's just an awful person. No, it's never a good end of an evening if you're a guest on Tucker Carlson and you haven't done your research. It's like after that, just go to an empty bar. Don't go where people might recognize you, because it's not going to end. You're going to be sitting there going,
Twitter.
A Tucker interview is something you go over in your head, like, I could have said that.
Oh, yeah.
Why did I say this? Oh, my God, he got me on that. And then Tucker's face, it's like he's watching two antelopes mating on Wild Kingdom. You know, he just stays just like this. He's just watching.
But he's slightly bemused.
He's slightly bemused by it, but he's going, this is interesting. I really don't have to do much but let this person bury himself in his silly words. So it's highly entertaining. I don't know. You know what? This is an interesting topic because you're veering towards an unspeakable truth about racial differences.
Yep.
Asians, You know, why do they require no affirmative action despite having the disadvantage of being outsiders coming from somewhere else, not being native speakers, and their language is vastly different. There's not much overlap, and they come from vastly different cultures, and they come from countries that we were once at war with, and they come here and they do fine.
Not just fine.
Yeah.
They kick our asses.
Maybe there's cultural importance placed on doing really well in school.
Yeah.
And to the credit of a lot of these families, they are actually fighting really hard for
Tiger
school
moms.
choice, which benefits everyone. You know,
We could
when
do
you
an entire topic about
That's one.
But we have to go.
She was the first female campaign manager to help propel a presidential nominee to victory. There's been a lot of speculation about what role Kellyanne Conway might play in the upcoming Trump administration. Today, we got the answer. Conway will serve as counselor to the president. She appeared on Fox and Friends this morning.
It's an honor, certainly, but it's also very humbling, the gravity and the responsibility of serving at a senior level for the President of the United States. It's difficult to pass that up, and I know I've got his ear and his trust. I think those are the two main criteria, and I very much respect the rest of the senior team that you've seen in action already.
And I've got the other ear in my freezer. There were other major announcements today about the Trump team. Sean Spicer was named press secretary. Hope Hicks, director of strategic communications. Jason Miller, director of communications. And Dan Scavino, director of social media. Dana, of course, I'm going to go to you first. This is an important day.
Yeah, I love
especially
these
for the
announcements.
Communications team.
If I could mention something about Kellyanne Conway that I think is a real asset, because she mentioned having his confidence and the ear, and I think she also speaks very well for him. She's a good Trump-splainer. You know, she explains it. And the other thing that she does, because of her background, she's got a law degree, she's been a pollster. So one of the things that's going to happen at the White House is they're going to want to achieve big things. Like, say it's a big legislative thing, maybe immigration reform or Obamacare repeal and replace. So I think she's the kind of person who can look at that goal and then back up and figure out communications-wise, what do you need to do at certain points in order to make it to that goal. And you're not going to win every day's battle, but she has an ability to have a longer term view and look around and see around corners. So I think she'll be very good.
Bless you.
I'm not sure what that was.
The trees fell out of anticipation for the holiday season. Okay, but quickly about the communications team. You've got Hope Hicks, Dan Scavino, and you've got others who have now
You know what
been...
I'm happy about for them is that they were announced right before Christmas so they can go have a great holiday with their families, and then they're going to be working really hard.
All right, so Eric, you have been a vocal supporter of this administration. You've also had many meetings at Trump Tower, and perhaps you've been privy to information and conversations that
None whatsoever. I'll tell you the extent of my priviness. It was I was having dinner last night with my lovely wife, and a table right next to us was Kellyanne Conway and her beautiful family. Her daughters were wonderful. I talked to the husband, and I'm so thrilled that we're going to have Kellyanne close to the president moving to D.C. because originally she wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
She was going to stay in New
Was she holding
Jersey.
out?
Yeah. No, she wasn't. And I think she's going to talk. She's going to be on Hannity with me tonight, by the way. We're going to talk about it. But 3 of the daughters are on board now. The 4th one, she's still working. We actually put an online petition. Why not to bring the Conway family to D.C. Check it out tonight. It's going to be a great interview. But here's the thing. She's going to be the senior most female in the White House. And I got to tell you, every woman, my wife included, just think the world of Kellyanne Conway.
Well, she did polling on women, so I think she's going to help Trump with a key constituency. But I was on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning.
Dropper.
I'm sorry?
Nothing.
What'd you say?
I called you a name dropper.
Oh, no, no. I was saying this because when I was on Maria's show, they asked me about Conway, and I said, but she has 4 kids, and she's going to have to deal with this. And she said this to me. And then I was immediately lambasted saying, oh, you're going after a woman and saying a woman with 4 kids shouldn't take. But I remember when the attack was, oh, why is Kellyanne Conway not standing up for women by showing that a woman with 4 kids can take the job?
Well,
so
now she's showing that she can do it. Sean Spicer also has children. And Greg, when's the last time you saw Sean Spicer?
It's been a long time. I noticed he's quite small.
Well, look at this photograph we have of Sean Spicer, who stopped by the 5 only moments ago.
Sure he is. He is tiny little man. But you know what? Tiny little people.
He's the Hervé Villachez.
Tiny little people become huge spokespersons. Like Dana was a very small person. Now, so Kellyanne's going to be a counselor.
Yeah, that's right.
So
She's going to have a whistle on the clipboard.
Yeah, that's right. Like a guidance counselor, a camp counselor, they never turn out well. They always wear the wrong shorts.
Didn't you see Meatballs?
Oh, I saw it. Yeah. And I know, I hear you. They're telling me to move. They're saying we got to go.
Yeah,
so I have 16 things I want to add.
Very good.
Let's talk about Dan Scavino, huh? He's a great tweeter. He tweeted his way to my heart.
Up next. Trust me. Stay here for
it. Time for one more thing, Dana.
Time for this.
Dana's corny joke of the day.
I promise that in 2017 I will change that voice and Greg won't have to plug his ears. Okay, I got 3 corny jokes. These are the final ones of 2016. Kennedy's first time at corny joke of the day. Number 1. What nationality is Santa Claus?
Of course, he's white.
Oh, geez.
Ladies, that's a callback. It's a callback to a show, people.
What, your clan meeting?
Yes.
Okay. We'll fill you in a commercial break. What nationality is Santa Claus? He is North Polish.
Very good.
Cute, very good. Cute. Okay.
I like mine better.
What did one snowman say to the other?
Why are you white? Why are we all white? Why aren't there any black snowmen?
Good guess. Good guess. But it's actually, do you smell carrots?
Oh, that's cute. I like that one.
That's funny.
All right. What does Santa say at the start of a race?
White people up front.
Oh, man.
It's just a trend now.
It is.
Ho, ho, go.
Ready, set, ho, ho, ho. Very good, Eric Bolling.
All right, Greg, you're up.
I think 50 Cent says the same thing.
All right. Funny.
I hate these people.
All right. Again, I got to go back to the gym. Somebody's on a stair climber or a bike and you decide, I want to watch something on TV and there's like 12 TVs. You should turn around and you should say, excuse me, are you watching this? And maybe look around at the other TVs and see that the one you're going to change it to without asking is already on. We don't need 3 sets on the Kardashians. We don't need 3 sets on plastic surgery mishaps. I don't want to see that early in the morning. I don't want to see real estate shows.
You want to see Carol Costello?
Yes, Carol Costello. So, some people are saying that you are a racist. Okay, we'll have to leave it there. We'll have to leave it. That's all she says. We'll have to leave it there.
Juan's up.
We'll have to leave it there. Juan.
Well, anyway, Bill O'Reilly's off delivering gifts to orphans, so I'm going to sit in tonight along with Dana. Dana Perino's there to hold my hand, Katrina Pearson, and Bernie Goldberg.
You're in good hands.
Anyway, I wanted to find out what was the hottest gift this Christmas season.
A stove.
And the first one fascinates me. It's called Hatchimals. And this fuzzy little creature hatches before a kid's eyes. It's very hard to get. One dad in Dublin had to go to Spain in order to get it.
Very quickly, tonight, Kellyanne Conway on Hannity. Also, Harvey Levin. We're going to talk about the JetBlue incident with Ivanka Trump. TMZ broke that story. We're going to ask him about that. Last night, Adrian went to an amazing group. It's called Santa's Response Team, Bergen County Law Enforcement. They raise presents for kids, terminally ill kids, and military families. Let me get that last picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Tons of pictures.
Awesome.
And my good friend, Detective Kurt Glynn, coming up right here. There he is on the right. Good people. Kennedy, you're up.
Love this story. The Durant Fire Department in Oklahoma, 33 people in that department. 6 of the dads sired children this year, and instead of doing a traditional Christmas card, they used all the new babies that were born between February and June.
Beautiful.
6 of them, future firefighters. So delicious. Look at those chubby cheeks. So cute. They say the brotherhood and family, the most important things to that
All right,
group.
we're going to leave it right there. Don't forget, Juan Williams at 8, Eric Bolling at 10. Stick around. Special report next.